Welcome. We appreciate you joining us for episode number 27. A Woman's Home-Based Calling is what we've titled this one. So, where do we find happiness? For the most part, everybody wants to be happy, right? We like to be happy. But where do you find true happiness, deep and lasting pleasure? So the world, if you look at the television, at the iPhones, at any number of things, offers us all manner of answers to this question. So the question being, what is the chief end of man? Women included, but to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. And there we should find our enjoyment. So in this episode 27, we want to offer a biblical alternative to the promises or lies that are offered by the world.
So first off, I'm shocked that we made it to episode 27, and we're hoping that some folks are still with us. But the world, in comparison to God, offers us all manner of lies. So let me just put aside lies told to women, lies told to men, and let me just offer lies told to both. So the lie that's told to both is, you will find your fulfillment in a career. You will be satisfied. You will be, as you glorify yourself, that's where your happiness is. In Scripture, it's not spoken of as a career. You don't find that word. It's spoken of as a calling. What has God called you to do? And so there we find differences between men and women. So first off, put this idea of whether you're male, female, man or woman, whether this whole idea of a career, forget it, right? It's of the world and you are the center of it. Put God back in the center and see what He has for you. So what I'm reading from is 1 Timothy chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. Paul says, therefore, I desire that a younger widow, so we have women that have married, husbands died, maybe they have children, maybe they don't have children. What are they told to do? Bear children, manage the house. Why? It says, give no opportunity for the adversary to speak reproachfully, for some have already turned aside after Satan. So give no ground for them to speak ill of us. So women, whether you're widows or not, right, bear children, manage the house, and give no opportunity to the adversary. So this is a woman's calling, home-based. Her ministry is home-based. Now, let's be clear. He's not saying, and I don't want to say, she's tied to the kitchen. She can never leave the house. But what we want to say is that her home is the center of her operation. You just turn to Proverbs 31, and you can see that woman's busy going here and there, but she's coming back. That's her base. The corporate office is not her base. And more importantly, she's not out supporting another man. Women are terrific helpmeets. She's not out supporting another man on his mission. She's not out supporting a corporation on their mission. So she's busy supporting her husband. And by the way, women are most of the time wonderfully gifted with taking care of thousands and thousands of details. So when men are on a mission, they need that support. So I'm going to ask my wife, it's not an anniversary, but it's almost been 39 years of marriage for us. So maybe you can speak of some of those activities throughout our marriage that have had you home, where home has been your center of operation.
Well, 13 months after marriage, we were blessed with our first son, our firstborn, and almost every 2 years after his birth, for the next 14 years, the children kept coming. So babies, obviously, in their newborn stage, are quite helpless. They can't eat for themselves. They can't walk. They can't, change their diapers, anything. So babies obviously demand a lot of attention. Good attention. It's not bad. But I felt that was my calling at that point, to care for this little one, to feed him, clothe him, bathe him, diaper him, and then as well, many meals to be made, and to teach our children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And from the time I woke up, whether it was at 2 in the morning and 4 in the morning, and consequently, that's just the way it is. If you've had a child, you know that's how it can be sometimes. But it was time demanding, but it was a sacrifice. This is what I was called to do. So there were, as we taught the children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, there were lessons for me to learn. And then I obviously had never been a mother before. I had been a nanny, so I had a little practical experience on that end. But just caring for my own child, it was quite the learning experience. And then, so after the helpless stage comes the I can do it for myself stage. And sometimes that required a lot of discipline, a lot of teaching and walking alongside. But at night you fall in bed and you are exhausted, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Every day there was something new to see, for them to learn. And it was such a delight to be able to experience that. So after 10 young, well, they used to be young humans, and we kept them all alive by God's grace. But knowing, and here's the key, that it was our prayer and our desire for them to bear and have to grow to be adults, and to someday, if God called them to marriage, and to have children of their own. And so we see many of the patterns that we established in our own home now being repeated.
So now if we think about it, right, glorifying God. So think about this. So here we were, a couple, my wife and I, have 10 children. Let's assume those 10 children get married. In fact, many of them have. We have 20 grandchildren. But imagine now they have, those 10 families have 4 kids each. Now there's 40 grandkids to marry and launch 40 new families serving Christ. Run the math, exponential growth. See how God's kingdom grows. This isn't the only way it grows, but this is one way that God really loves his kingdom to grow. Another picture of this home-based and the importance of a wife in the house is from Psalm 128. So just read part of this. So Psalm 128, blessed is everyone who fears the Lord. Fear the Lord. Take what he has for you, who walks in his ways. When you eat the labor of your hands, you shall be happy, and it shall be well with you. Get this picture now. So we're eating. It's around the dinner table. Here's what it says. Your wife. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house. Your children like olive plants all around your table. So here's the picture we have, is this wonderful picture. And who's at the center of it? My wife. A godly wife. She's the glue. She's the love that binds it all together. She's the fruitful one. So the hope is this, is that as a husband, or as a godly husband, is busy tending to his wife, and if you go to the Song of Solomon, it speaks of a wife as a garden. So here is with lovely, wonderful treasures that's fruitful. So a godly man tends his garden. He tends his wife. She's fruitful and she multiplies. And she's the thing that binds us all together. So a godly wife's love, her nurture, her care, this is what binds the family together. Remove the mother, you just have this place to eat. You have something like a truck stop, right? Remove the mother and you have this cold, sterile environment. So what our children received otherwise was this place soaked in love, right? And the Lord has blessed me. The Lord has blessed our family. So what a noble and high calling that this has, to have a wife who understands how much blessing she can impart upon her husband, upon her children, and then, as my wife has said, right, to see it repeated generation after generation after generation. Paul continues on with this concept of what woman's calling, and he's in the book of Titus, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. We have this, that an older woman is to teach a younger woman how to love her husband and how to love her children. It's kind of an interesting thing, right? Put hands and feet to it. You women with experience, put hands and feet to it and help these younger women to understand. So, dear, how might that love be manifest?
Well, hopefully, and it's not done perfectly by any means, but by example and by walking alongside, hopefully, as you have seen your daughters and your sons grow in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, hopefully one has been able to set a godly example. And I know in past videos we've talked about, yep, we have feet of clay and we have sinful spirits and temptations. We've had to go to our children over the years sometimes and ask forgiveness. But that in itself is also a lesson. But there's 1,000 small ways. And I say small, but necessary and very important for just a happy and a clean home. And well, I say organized, but if you were to look in my home, it's not completely organized like the Pinterest with all the perfect shelves and everything. We live here, so yeah. But I do wash sheets, and I have clean towels, and I make sure the soaps are, provided, and a hot meal. Usually after, Dad gets home, we would be ready for dinner. And hopefully without grumbling, without complaining, with some pre-planning. And again, it's not a perfect picture, but it was a goal to try to do. To love our children, the needs, like I mentioned before, are usually obvious. You have diapers changed, nose wiped, discipline when sin rears its ugly head. And these are blessings indeed. And they gave my life purpose, I guess. But there are other blessings, just like I just mentioned, living with them, seeing their first steps, their first tooth, their first, so many different firsts, and how they continue to learn and learn and learn. We have a little granddaughter that is just learning to roll over, and pretty soon she'll be army crawling and then pulling up, and all these first things, teaching them to read. And, I always enjoyed taking them outside, dribbling, and teaching them how to shoot a basket. So we've also taught them to bake bread and sew and do all these things. But it's hopefully encouraging. My calling was to be a lifelong teacher. And it doesn't stop when I get older. Hopefully I can pass that along to our daughters and younger women in the church.
Right. So one of the things in one of our videos we talked about is how to win the hearts of your children. And what do they want most? They want you. They want their parents. And what a wonderful thing it was for their mother to be home with them. Every day wasn't a pleasure, right? But looking back, the whole life was a pleasure. And to see the blessing and to see that imparted. And the thing that joys our heart now is to see that being repeated with our daughters and with our daughters-in-law, and our sons and sons-in-law. The Ecclesiastes says there's a season for everything. So if you do open up Proverbs 31, famous passage, right, you can see all this stuff that this woman is doing, this industrious woman. Let's be clear, right? She wasn't doing it all at once. This is a whole catalog of things that were going on in her life. So my wife was raising 10 children. And as the bulk of those children were in the house, we never had a dream. Let's start a side business, right? I'm like, crazy, right? Well, what's happened? My wife has learned to cook. She's learned to cook. She's learned to clean. She's learned to cook and clean for an army. And speaking of it a little bit metaphorically, but also purposefully, right? Our family is an army unto Christ. She learned to cook and clean for them. She learned to cook and clean for all of our visitors. And so she's probably much more capable of cooking for 20 or 30. And somewhere in the future, she might have to cook for 2. That will be more of a challenge. So after years of managing, of learning how to do these things and learn how to do them really well in our bustling home, my wife has developed some serious skills, right? Skills, her home-based skills of keeping and running this large organization. So as our children began to grow and get older, one of the things we were able to do is purchase some rental property. Last couple, maybe start 5, 6, 7 years ago, we turned that rental property into some Airbnbs. And there you could see my wife's skills that she developed just take over. She, like that Proverbs 31 woman, knew where to go to get the furnishings for those houses. She knew how to apply the colors and the patterns and to decorate it so that people who traveled into the area could stay there and feel this is home, not just this cold, sterile place, but this place where they could come, they could be given hospitality, they could be welcomed, and they can enjoy it. So there's a season for everything. It wouldn't have been a season for her to try to even undertake this when the kids were much younger, but now the kids are older. This is a great place. So this home-based ministry, she goes, decorates, she goes and oversees the cleaning, she goes and whatever the setup, but at home is her base. And it's a part of our mission as a family. And the proceeds from this work have allowed us to do some other things and to continue on our larger mission. So it's not a mission for a corporation. It's not a mission for her or I to glorify ourselves. We're on a mission to glorify God. And so the home continues to be the base for our ministry. So maybe you want to speak to that.
Well, in our home, as Kevin mentioned, there was often hospitality, and it could have involved a meal, or it might have just been having somebody who came in the area and just spent the evening, a guest pastor or something. But, and not to mention that, with the company that you work for, we've had a lot of international co-workers and everything that have come in. Sometimes we've had them over for meals and been able to, they just enjoyed watching us around the table and, playing games and just making them part of our family. And in doing so, always hopefully with the end goal of showing them the love of Christ. We enjoy hosting psalm sings. We try to do that once a month and invite people to come in, and we sing from the Psalms and have a time of teaching and prayer, Bible studies, or just a chance to enjoy fellowship. And we see our children, they love to invite friends over of different ages and, play, killer pong around the ping pong table or board games and whatever it might be. So last evening we had quite a few people here, and they ended up making chocolate chip pancakes and it just enjoying one another and getting to know one another. And the lovely thing is, I don't think there were any electronics involved, and they just got to communicate with other people. Yeah. So, sometimes we're surprised 20 or 30 years later, we have people, I remember when we came to your house, and they can sometimes remember we had jambalaya and applesauce, and we got to sit around and talk. And and I'm thankful that they enjoyed that time, and there wasn't anything extremely special about it other than just being willing to spend time with people and offer kindness.
Yeah. So maybe you're familiar with this movie. It's called A Wonderful Life, and I forget the man's last name, George, right? Things are not going well for him. He wants to commit suicide, and then he's shown a picture of how his life, how the world would have been without him. So mothers, let me just say this, right? The world is telling you lies. Men, the world is telling you lies. Your fulfillment will be in making yourself great, getting those promotions, climbing the corporate ladder. Bull. It's a lie, right? So the number of people that have been blessed as my wife has stayed home, and by the way, I'm the key recipient of those blessings, has been tremendous. So if we could just peel that back and see all those blessings, how far and wide they are. So what are we doing? My wife is serving others as though they were Christ. Even the least of these, those with diapers, the teenagers that are, having a bad day, dad that's having a bad day, she was there, she was blessing, a cheerful smile. And what do dads need to do? They need to rise and praise their wife and teach their children to do the same, because the work is so important. So, to the world that tells the women all these lies, go do what the men are doing. Go get yourself a career. First of all, men, forget your thought of a career and get a vocation. Serve God, serve your family. Women, serve your husbands, love your children. And then if you've advanced skills that are home-centric, your children are growing up and out of the house, okay, bless others. Continue to bless others by a service and a product, right? So in this world, put aside the lies. Put aside all that they're telling you. Go back to God's word and see the clear teaching that's there. Women, make your house a wonderful blessing, a home that'll last and go on for generations. Thank you for joining us. If you like this video, ask you to check out some of our other episodes. We have many more to come. So if you do like it, please subscribe. Until next time, may you enjoy the blessings of God. Thank you very much.